Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. Leave us reviews, tell everybody about it. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi. Long time no see.
Long time no talk. Okay, so on this episode, we're gonna talk mainly about pitching, but I do want to start off with something that happened with when the Dodgers went to go visit the Bravos. And we all know that Federico has a very strong relationship with the Bravos. Even though the Bravos didn't re-sign him and there was a little bit of drama with the contract during his free agency, I still think Federico, if he gets into the Hall of Fame, is going to go in as an Atlanta Brave. But this past weekend, the Bravos, I think, did a very classy gesture. And when we compare it, to other athletes coming to visit their former teams, let's just say not every team acts accordingly. Amie, you want to stop laughing at me and tell our audience what I'm talking about?
No, I just the Braves organization donated in honor of Freddie Freeman's son, Max Freeman. So it just kind of in that vein, it's similar to like when Justin Turner came to Dodger Stadium, and it's not necessarily about the donation. It's just about honoring these players of games, being able to have them come back to their stadium where they obviously mean a lot to fans. I don't know if you saw it, but there were a lot of fans with the split Freeman jersey where it's like half Braves, half Dodgers. When Freddie came up to the plate, he got his ovation. Like, these guys mean things. Like, as passionate as we got in our last episode, we love this sport. So when somebody can come back and you have a team that not only honors Freddie, but kind of the situation that he went through with his son, which had to have been so just heartbreaking. It's a nice nod to these players who, as we know, it's a business. They're not always going to get to stay with the team that they want, and just seeing the relationships that they have built and how those play out as they visit stadiums that they come back to.
Do we know the donation, what it was given to?
No, because I think just sent you the message and I was like, "Aw."
I want to, maybe I shouldn't say it until I know for sure, but there was a part of me that felt like the donation was to the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, but I could be wrong there. I know the Dodgers gave the Justin Turner Foundation the donation when Justin Turner came to Dodger Stadium. But that's what I didn't get clarification on. I know they gave a donation in Max Freeman's name. I just don't know where the donation went to.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where it went. I just passed through our photos of you that I dressed up to look like Princess Leia. But no, I'm not.
And again, I'm putting it out there for you people because we are getting close. At the time that we are recording this was right before the beginning of the Doyers and the Miami Marlins series. Okay, we're going to talk about that series next week, but Shohei Ohtani did hit his 48th home run. He is at 48-48. And I had mentioned on previous episodes, putting it out there, do you guys want to see us celebrate if Shohei gets 50-50? What celebration ideas? How would we celebrate? Yes, Ms. Cuevas.
Within reason.
Yes. So once again, if you guys have ideas on how we should celebrate Shohei getting to 50-50 if he makes it, please make sure you leave it in the comments here on the YouTube channel or send us on social media your ideas of how we should celebrate Shohei getting to 50-50. He is now 2 home runs shy. He is 2 stolen bases shy from 50-50. Amie,
And
did you find anything?
I did. So the Atlanta Braves president and CEO Derek Schiller and manager Brian Snitker presented a donation in Max Freeman's name to the GBS CIDP Foundation. And if you're looking for their handle on Twitter, X, it's at GB as in boy S CIDP. So just
Do we know what that foundation is for?
to support those affected by GBS, CIDP, and variants, so each patient obtains an early diagnosis, proper treatment, and the opportunity for a full recovery.
Oh, and that's what Max Freeman was diagnosed with.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce what it was because I butchered it last time. It's a French sounding name, and I will leave that to you.
Okay, good term. So yeah, again, a very classy move on the Bravos' part. And this is all I'm saying, Amie. It's just some things are just not that difficult. It's very easy to, and everybody's a winner here. The
Well, and I don't
foundation
even
gets
think
money.
the donation is necessary. It's great, kind of like
You're right.
Tips,
It's not.
Tips not what is it? Tips not required, but I can't even at this point. The coffee has not fully kicked in, but while they're appreciative of those donations to the foundation, it's more just the fact that they were honoring and acknowledging him because he is an important piece of baseball, no matter where he plays.
Absolutely. One thing before we go on to our next topic that I forgot to tell you is I finally understand Rex Manning Day. I had never seen the major motion picture Empire Records.
Oh my God, this is a red letter day. It almost calls for Rex Manning Day cupcakes.
So my wife she sat me down and made me watch it last week. Now, this was in response to.
I love it so much.
My wife has a wonderful sense of humor because I had asked her earlier in the week if she wanted to go to the movies with me because I wanted to go see a 3-hour Taiwanese movie called Yi Yi, directed by the wonderful Edward Yang. It's a great movie, but it's a 3-hour Taiwanese foreign film. And she was just like, no. So she was telling this story the next day to her coworkers. And the coworkers were very surprised to know that I had not seen Empire Records. They're like, how has Juan not seen Empire Records? He's such a movie guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife was just like, yeah, believe that? He hasn't seen Empire Records, but he'll go to the movies to go see a 3-hour Taiwanese movie. That's who I am. Amie, that is a bad movie. Empire Records.
It wasn't when it came out though. This is like when you watch movies later on and you're like, oh God. When it came out, it was a decent movie. It wasn't going to be a blockbuster or anything, but it was in relation to the time, so it fit.
It definitely felt like it was the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It captured the 90s, but I will say this, Amie, the most intriguing character to me in that movie was Rex Manning. Even though he was a total cliche, and this just goes to tell you how bad the other characters are in this movie, Rex Manning to me was the most intriguing character, and he was a cliche.
What? Oh my God, there's so many good characters in that B movie. Wow. I'm starting to question your love of movies at this point because Jaws 3, Empire Records.
Oh,
wow.
Oh my God. Yes, we will always agree to disagree on our movie taste. If it makes you feel any better.
Except for Jaws the original.
If it makes you feel any better, last night I went to go see a 4-hour Taiwanese movie. So
it doesn't make me feel better.
Okay.
You know what also makes me feel bad? I read on the Twitters, on the social media, Chris Young, the general manager for the Rangers, stated that Corey Seager is going to undergo season-ending surgery for a sports hernia. Isn't that a bummer?
The sports hernia has become, because that's your friend Geeka had.
He had 2. He was like, overachiever.
Yeah, so the sports
he had a double.
hernia. The sports, and and I think, again, if we look back at it, I think this is part of the reason. I know when the Rangers won the World Series last year, there were a lot of people saying, I can't believe they didn't re-sign Corey Seager. But this is part of the reason why I think the Dodgers were concerned with signing Corey Seager to a long-term contract.
It's so funny because all players at this point, they're all going to get injured at one point or another. It's just, what is the likelihood this season, or, while we're signing these long-term contracts? We signed Yamamoto to a 12-year deal, not knowing how he was going to pitch. So I feel like that's the baseball gamble that teams make, no matter what. Reclamation project, people coming up from the farm system who don't have the experience yet, or just, people who are experienced in the game, and, those free agencies are supposed to pay off. And it's like, you're rolling the dice. That's a baseball.
That is a very good segue into our next topic, Amie, because I think with the Yamamoto, I think it is fair to say that you don't know what to expect with him because he's new. He was coming into Major League Baseball. But with Corey Seager, you had enough data, especially the Dodgers did, because they've had him his whole career. Mm-hmm. So you're right, in the sense it was a gamble, but they looked at the information they had. Corey Seager's a big dude. He probably wasn't going to play shortstop for the rest of his career. But it seems, if you look back at Corey Seager's career, he is either killing it and going on a rampage and winning you a World Series, or he's
single-handedly, like with the team on his back.
Exactly. Or he's on the injured list. So it's either, hey, we're not going to have him, or we got a good chance we're going to win the World Series, with him.
Which is where it's more that level playing field across baseball. It's not just our team that this happens to. It's baseball. It's across. I'm not denying that the Dodgers have more injuries than most people right now, but it does happen. Like, they just lost their star player. Odds are their playoff dreams are a little farther away, but it still hurts to lose that guy who kind of leads your team.
Well, let's get into it because I believe Ken Rosenthal is the one who wrote an article. So, Amie, you want to lead us into this topic?
Yes. So he wrote an article in The Athletic on Monday, basically just coming down to the Dodgers can't blame pitching injuries on just misfortune. So kind of what you were touching on in the last episode of accountability. There were some really great points that he made. It was kind of similar to that article you introduced us to with Jack Harris last week. Basically, like, yes, Glasnow is out for the season, but it's not just him who's out. It's not like we pinned all of our hopes on Glasnow. It's the fact that the rest of the injuries on the team compound it. So it's him plus everything else. And just kind of pointing out all the stuff that we know, but just in one place for us to see it. We've had 12 different starting pitchers on the IL this year. Even some of the players that came up from our AA affiliate, Frasso, Sheehan, Hurt, Ryan, all of those guys are out with arm surgeries right now. Sorry, Nick Frasso, Emmett Sheehan, Kyle Hurt, and River Ryan. And that the Dodgers prioritize swing and miss, but they can't really keep pitchers healthy. So they're going to have to find creative paths to get those 27 outs as they work their way toward the World Series, starting at the DS all the way through and seeing where they land up.
It is very interesting that article. When I read the article, I did feel it piggybacked on a lot of the points that Jack Harris brought up the week before in his Los Angeles Times article. But this is what's interesting to me, because now there's more and more stories coming out. Joe Maddon, the former manager of the Angels and the Rays, was on the Ricky Cobb show, and he basically, I think it is now becoming a narrative, Amie, where it's like, yeah, the Dodgers, there's this narrative out there, poor Dodgers, they have all these injuries, their pitching staff just completely has just fallen apart. And you have Ken Rosenthal, you have Joe Maddon, and you've had others that say, hey, the Dodgers have no one to blame but themselves. And I feel what Joe Maddon said in that interview, in that podcast, I think was fair, and it's true.
I have the quote if you need it.
Go ahead. Give us the quote. Amie.
So it says, right now I'm listening about the Dodgers and their concerns going into the postseason. They don't have enough starters, and even if they did, they don't pitch deeply into the game. You've got a worn out bullpen. It's their own fault. Don't blame it on anything else.
Absolutely. So where's the lie there? Where was Joe Madden out of line? Did Joe Madden say anything that was untrue?
No, I don't think this was like something that was supposed to start like a, I don't know, like a fight or anything. Like he's stating his opinion. So is Ken Rosenthal. This is one of the things about baseball that I feel sometimes people get shocked about. Like it's an insulated sport. We're all talking about baseball, so you're going to hear the same topics. They're going to come up, and it's not just going to be like only Dodgers fans can talk about these things. People see stuff going through the MLB, and they're going to talk about it. Just like I just mentioned, Corey Seager. It's not just the Rangers that are talking about losing their, one of their key players. We're mentioning it. Like this is part of baseball. He has his opinion. He shared it. I don't think it's about like inciting anything. The Dodgers have some pitching problems.
No, and I don't think it's about inciting anything either. But what I think is very interesting, and you hinted at it in our last episode, the off season. I mean, Friedman has already said that they're going to look into it because obviously they identified that there is an issue. So I think it is one of those things where it's like, okay, you already said, you even acknowledged it. Something is going on in your organization that needs to be looked at. So
well, the data backs it up. Nobody can deny that. But I think we also need to remember, too, it's not going to be an instantaneous change. It's not just the Dodgers. While they may lead it and they have their own issues in addition to what's going on across baseball with pitching, they need to identify their own franchises challenges. But it's also endemic through all levels of baseball at this point. So it's not going to just change on a dime.
yeah, and so I mean, like take for example Tyler Glass now. The Dodgers did everything possible, giving him extra days rest, putting him on the injured list. They've done everything they can to protect him, and he still ended up getting hurt. Same thing can be said about Gavin Stone. Like they did everything possible to protect these pitchers, but they still continue to get hurt. But you look like a team.
Yamamoto pitching every 6 days or however many days we had between starts. Like they tried to pad him as much as they could. I always think of that Little Giant scene where the kid's walking in wrapped in like plastic wrap or bubble wrap just so that nothing happens. Like they did their best, and it's the arm injuries, and that's wow, I can't talk today. Arm injuries. But that's kind of what Rosenthal was pointing to as well, is that it's arm, it's shoulder. It's not like, I mean, with the occasional Dustin May with esophageal surgery, but outside of that, it's been more pitching problems than it has anything else that's taking these guys out.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see next year how they go ahead and deal with it, because now you're going to deal with the fact that they're not going to have all this depth. I think one of the things that was really, I appreciate that he covered on that, was the fact that you look at it and you go, all right, you guys not only traded for Tyler Glasnow, but you extended him. Mm-hmm. You gave him a very long contract. And there's this thing, well, he already had his second Tommy John, so his arm should be good at least for another 5 years, which is the length of that contract. But in the first year, with everything you did to protect him, he still got hurt. There was the belief Blake Snell was out there. You could have gotten Blake Snell instead of trading for Tyler Glasnow. All it would have cost you was money, but you didn't do it. And this is in Ken Rosenthal's article, where he said, and this is something that is, again, very fair and I think true of the Dodgers. They like to win deals, and they want to sign people on their own price tag.
Who's to say, though, with if the Dodgers do identify something in their training program, that something, I mean, I don't want anything to happen to anybody, knock on wood, but it wouldn't have happened to Blake Snell in the organization too. So
that's true.
And that's where, like, so Joe Madden made a couple great points on that Ricky Cobb show. And I think it referenced Outkick.com, just so I'm throwing my sources out there too. But he mentioned that, like, he doesn't believe in revisionist history. This like what ifs in the game. Like what if we had signed Snell? Like it's great if you want to read an article and that's, you know, that's got the information in it. But he said it's all about what actually happened and basically like kind of what unfolds going forward. So like, yeah, maybe we sign Snell, maybe something happens. Maybe we sign Glasnow, maybe he stays healthy. Like all of that at the end of the day is, I don't want to say conjecture, but it's like it's wishful thinking because this is the situation we have right now. And like you said, as it stands, the Dodgers have a responsibility in the offseason to look into it and figure out how to change it, as does the entirety of the MLB. Figure something out because it's not just the Dodgers that have pitchers that are going out with some of these issues. We just have a higher instance of it. He also mentioned just making baseball more fun. It was like a 25-minute interview. If you guys get a chance to find it, it was actually pretty good. Talking also about like more tech also subtracts the passion from baseball, in his opinion. And he thinks that bullpen games and chasing velocity are things that are challenging the game right now. So just getting another former manager's opinion on what this game looks like was just interesting, especially if you stay more insulated with the Dodgers, just being able to expand and hear somebody else's perspective.
Well, yeah. I mean, you remember Ben Joyce, the Angels closer, when the Dodgers were playing the Angels down in the Freeway Series, where he was throwing 104 miles per hour pitch after pitch. And guess what? He went on the IL shortly after that. So the velocity thing, I think, is real. I think one of the interesting points that he brought up there was bullpen games. And it is just, I agree with him. I don't think it's fun to watch. You know, another thing that's not fun to watch, Amie, is seeing position players pitch. And we saw some people really come out because over the weekend, your buddies, two of your favorites, pitched in the Bravo series. You want to set that up?
Yeah. So Saturday in that 1-10 loss against the Bravos, Rojas had to come in and pitch in the 7th, and now he holds the best ERA on the team. He has that 0 ERA, but he is also the 38th different player to pitch. And then Kike came in and pitched in the 8th.
Is that so? That's in all of Major League Baseball. That's not just on the Dodgers, right?
No, it's the Dodgers. He's the 38th different player to pitch on the team in general of all the pitchers they've had this season.
In their whole, just this season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think
they've had
was
38 position players pitch.
No, 38. He's just a 38 different play. Wow.
Different technically pitcher.
Yes.
Okay.
They're using player to pitch. Sorry, I took the wording from the stat, but he's the 38th different pitcher to pitch. He happens to be a position player, but of all the pitchers they've trotted out there, they've had 38 this season. Better?
Yeah, so
more clear, not as clear as mud.
I'm a book smart, so I'm sorry that I made that more difficult than it needed to be.
No, you clarified where people were probably going to have questions on. You were correct. So,
but I mean, Alden Gonzalez. I think it was Alden. No, your friend Eric Steven had a very interesting. Do you remember what Eric Steven said?
I think it was both of them. So I think I took screenshots and sent them to you. I'd have to find where I kept them, but it was an ongoing thing as the game was continuing. So Eric Steven had said, I believe this is the first time ever the Dodgers have used 2 position players to pitch in a game. Dubious history. And he wanted to ban position players pitching. So force teams to change the way they build rosters and use pitchers to where they always need fresh arms, give them an actual cost to their actions was his tweet or whatever.
And then Alden, I think just Ken said we just need to put an end to it too.
He said probably a controversial take, but I'm completely over the position player pitching thing. It's not at all enjoyable. Let teams forfeit. And that's something it's forfeit, whatever you want to call it, mercy rule. I think at a certain point, for me, it's not even that it's not enjoyable to watch. I'm worried about the health of those players. I don't want to see Rojas, like when he's typically throwing in a game, he's got, gaps of time before he makes another play. If we're putting him on the mound and he's throwing, one pitch after another on a pitch clock that he's not used to from a mound that he's not used to throwing off of, what is that potentially going to do to his body? Wear and tear. Sure, it's 1 inning, but how many pitches is he having to throw? Because he's not a pitcher. There was another stat that came out from Codify that in the entire pitch tracking era, he threw 17 of the slowest pitches by any Dodgers pitcher. And so, like, what are we doing? Like, we're potentially going to hurt these guys. People don't like watching it. Why? You've said before there's a slippery slope in it, but how do we find a better way to go about this when clearly the game is over? We've taken out all the good players, especially if people paid to come see that game. Now, now we're kind of trotting on that NBA territory of like, well, I came to see Freddie out on the field and they pulled him out. Like, what do we do in those cases?
Look, if you put a gun to my head and you say choose between having a position player pitch or forfeiting the game, I'm choosing forfeiting the game every single time. Because I agree with Alden. I agree with Eric Steven. I just don't think it's fun to watch. I don't think it's good. When I was a kid, the only times you ever saw a position player pitch was the best example I can give you, and I forget what year this was. The Dodgers were playing the Astros, and this was back when the Astros were still playing in the Astrodome. There was a game that went 22 innings between the Dodgers and the Astros. Fernando Valenzuela came in to play first base, and Jeff Hamilton, the Dodgers third baseman, was pitching. And it was such a rarity when you saw that. And you saw it because this game went 22 innings and they literally ran out of pitchers. But nowadays, to me, it's happening way too often. I'm not a fan of this. And it does seem like teams are literally putting up the white flag. So if that's what they're going to go ahead and do, then just go ahead and allow them to forfeit. I agree with you, Amie. That is a big concern to me. I would hate to see a position player get hurt because they were pitching in a game. I think this is a perfect time for the amazing tales of Michiro. The reason why
all right. I'm capping you on 30 seconds for this story. Go.
The reason why I hear a pop every time I throw is because I used to throw double headers in wiffle ball when I was a kid. I was throwing 18 innings of wiffle ball, and that's just, it's too much of a strain. And I know that it's finally cut up with me. So that was a segment of the amazing tales of Michiro. But
much like your very concerning and troubling situation. Like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like, I feel for you and your family. I'm just so glad you were able to come through it. When they're
taking food off my table, Amie. They're taking food off my table.
That's right. When they put Rojas on the mound, I was like, wait, this is the guy that you guys didn't think could play shortstop every day because he's getting older and you want to protect him from himself, but we're going to put him on the mound? Like, what are we doing? And then we put Kike out there in the top of the 8th. Now, I will say this. After that Arizona game, he did have an ERA of 5.40 after being at a 0 ERA. He did lower it to 4.15. So in the 4 games that he has pitched, he did manage to lower it. And there were some more cool stats. If you guys want really great stats and stuff like that, Eric Steven is somebody to follow on X or Twitter. He's always churning them out. But he had one that out of the 62 games with position players, I'm assuming in the MLB at this point, let me make sure I'm being very clear. So out of 62 games with position players pitching, the 61 of them have only had one player who's doing it throughout that game. So if they pitched multiple innings, it was that same position player. The Dodgers, out of the 62 games, they were the only one to have 2 position players in that Atlanta game. So they have the most position players pitching in one game at a time. Not really the stat you want to go for when we can just forfeit. If both teams are like, they come out to the home plate, shake hands, yes, let's forfeit. All right, great. Atlanta, you win. Let's go get dinner. But again, I think that also comes down to the people who paid to be there probably not going to want to leave on a forfeit.
Yeah, I know it's a pipe dream, and I know that they would never take the forfeit rule seriously. I don't think I'm curious as to what it would take for Major League Baseball to seriously consider that rule.
It's
But
going
I
to be
feel like,
somebody getting hurt is what it'll probably take, and not the first time. It's going to take a couple times before something gets taken seriously, and that's unfortunate.
so basically, don't worry about it, Amie, because it's not going anywhere, and I just have to learn to accept it because it's just baseball.
I don't like it. The position players pitching and in-game interviews are the bane of my existence, but here we are. But then you see Ashley Kelly, Joe Kelly's wife, posting that Knox loves to see their son loves to see Kike pitch off the mound. He's one of his favorite pitchers. Like it does bring joy to the kiddos, but outside of that, that's like the only shining thing that I could, Didn't Rojas have an exaggerated Landon Knack delivery they were talking about? I think.
I missed it because at that point I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm telling you.
You turned it off?
Yeah, it's just
where is your love of baseball to finish the game and see how? Wow, you just turn games off. Wow.
Yeah, especially if they start putting in position players, I can't see it. It's to me, it's non-competitive.
Wow.
It's just not appealing to me at all.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's wrap things up with our last story here, which is a little bit of a doozy here in terms of, I don't know if you guys know this, but a Twins catcher, he's in their minor league system. I believe was he the sixth pick, or because I don't think it goes 6 rounds anymore, but basically a catcher in the Twins minor league system was tipping opponents of pitches during at-bats. Amie, do you want to fill in the blanks in this story?
Sure. He was a 6th round draft picked out of the Coastal Carolina. Reading. So basically he was released on last Thursday because of the pitch tipping. So he told opposing pitchers the types of pitches coming to the plate during at bats in the game, and then basically eliminating his team.
He told hitters.
Hitters. Sorry. Thank you. Whew, go back.
Cálmate.
Sorry. It was the second game of a doubleheader on September 6th. So he was playing for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles. It's the Twins single A affiliate. And so he told multiple hitters on the Lakeland Flying Tigers, which is a Detroit affiliate, the pitches that were being thrown by their starter, Ross Dunn. Poor Ross Dunn. He's just like out there trying to do his thing, and, pitches are being tipped. Essentially, Lakeland, they had 4 runs in the second inning. They ended up winning on a 6-0 shutout to clinch the Florida State League West Division. And Fort Myers actually had the lead 3 weeks ago in their league, and he just wanted it to be over, was his quote. So the Fort Myers coaches were notified by the Lakeland coaches after the fact.
Wow. So, Amie, I mean, the Twins had to do this, right? There is just no other way. Like, even a suspension, I mean, this is one of those things that you just don't cross that line, right?
Well, you don't cross the line, but I think it goes against like the very essence of baseball. Like, it really is not over till the last out. And whether we want them to forfeit with position players pitching or not, it's not over till that last out. And if you're giving the other team an advantage just to end it, take yourself out of the game then, sir. Like, let somebody else have an opportunity to play this game, because you never know what's going to happen. I think them letting him go, releasing him, was the best thing that they could do, because you also don't want a morale killer in the clubhouse. Can you imagine what it felt like after the fact when that information came out? Like, how would you feel if your teammate was just like, yeah, I just wanted to get it over with?
I'd be pissed. But I think the last time I ever saw something like that happen was when Tom Berenger did it with Charlie Sheen on the mound. He did it to teach Charlie Sheen a lesson, and they deposited that ball in left field. But other than that, I think, I just don't.
But that was a veteran player doing it versus, just your catcher deciding he wanted to be over with the season to be over with.
Yeah, but it's like I know I would be pissed, but honestly, I'm still even shocked at reading these details. And if I was a player in that clubhouse, like once the game's over, like I don't know if any of them knew. Like I don't know how long it took for the other team's coaches to tell them, "Hey, do you know what your catcher was doing?" And how the team reacted at that time. Because you're right. I think the poor pitcher who was on the mound is probably the one that has the right to be pissed off the most. But if you're other people on the team, I think there's a part of you that just would be in shock of being like, wait, what?
What?
What was happening? And then I guess maybe you get pissed off. But like I said, I
So
don't
they
think
were
the coaches.
notified. This article says the coaches were notified after the game. So I don't know if that was immediately after or if it was like days after. But it said, so Bender's willingness to tip pitches surprised Lakeland players, and there were no indications of wrongdoing from the Flying Tigers. Sources said Bender had told teammates he wanted the season to be over. So,
Do you think that guy ever gets a second chance?
I don't know. I mean, he's released. Would you want to bring somebody in that you couldn't count on? Especially this was a more of a playoff situation. This was for the league, so it's not even just a regular game of like, wow, it's a doubleheader. I really hate doubleheaders. Can we just like get this going? Like these were important games.
Yeah, there is a part. I'm all for giving people a second chance. I'm a firm believer in redemption. But there is a part of me that is always going to have in the back of my head, will you do it again? Are you going to do something else? Because for me, to, to hear him do that, you know what I immediately thought, Amy, was this dude doesn't want to play.
2017. Oh,
No,
sorry. What?
no, not 2017. I actually, to tell you the truth, when I first heard the story, I had thought to myself, that dude doesn't want to play baseball anymore.
Mm-mm. And
Like
that's why
I
you
felt it
can't
was
have him on
so.
another team because
Yeah,
his heart's not in it.
exactly. That's what I felt like. Like what you did is so egregious that you did this because you clearly don't want to play anymore. Like you don't want to do this
Mm.
anymore. Uh, and so part of me then just makes me wonder, he had to have known it was going to get out. He had to have known that probably this was what was going to be his punishment. And that's why I think to myself, he just doesn't want to play baseball anymore.
Well, but why not leave then?
Yeah, exactly. Why go to this? This really just seems like this. You
Or
know what it
maybe
seems like?
he did think he wouldn't get caught. Maybe he's thinking like, well, they're gonna win. They're not gonna want to say anything.
You know what it reminds me of is the classic major.
2017.
No,
Sorry.
not 2017. The classic major motion picture Half Baked when he's just like fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool and fuck you. That's what it feels like he was doing when
Oh,
he decided to tell those other hitters, "Hey, here's what's coming."
oh
Like
man.
he
See, and I thought you were going with Abba Zaba, you're my only friend.
Okay, wow. See, just when I think I can mention a movie that you've never heard of, you come in immediately quoting Half Baked.
What? I love Abba Zabas.
Oh, is that what it is? It's your love of Abba Zaba?
What?
All right.
Yes. I
All right.
think it's unfortunate, and if he doesn't want to be in baseball anymore, I hope he finds his happiness elsewhere.
Yeah, you're right. I think it would have just been more honorable to just quit, man. Just quit. You really didn't have to do this unless it comes out that Charlie Sheen was sleeping with his wife, and this is why he did it.
Well,
You know.
maybe he just didn't give enough though. Like maybe he, to your point, he didn't like playing anymore, and this was his just like whatever. And it's like, well, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out on my own terms. Hey, by the way, fastball down the middle.
Yeah, I mean that
This is gonna be
it,
inside. Watch out.
it'd be fascinating to see. I'm sure he's going to get interviewed. When, I don't know, but I'm sure he's going to get interviewed. I'll be very curious to see if he shows any remorse. I would love to hear his reasoning as to why he did it. He
It, it
may have just temporarily lost his mind, Amy.
it said that he spent the final 2 games of the season, which the Muscles won his team, in the team's bullpen instead of the typical place in the dugout. So he was before they
Wow.
even released him, because this happened on September 6th. He didn't get released until the 12th. So,
Wow, I'm surprised they waited that long.
but again, we don't know when it was reported. We just know it was after the game, and that could
Yeah.
mean, depending on, literally after, or oh well, now
Maybe
that
they
we've
did an
now that we've
investigation.
secured the series. Oh, and you did win 2 other games, so it's fair, right?
Wow.
Who knows?
Very fascinating story. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Amie, do you have anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I'm all baseballed out.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And make sure you're following us on our social media, whether it's on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.